I hadn't made a vlog in a few days. I've been trying to kind of tell and back up some of the stories of my my life and so on that are somewhat interesting. I lived and worked in LA, ran a recording studio there for many years, and there's so many just weird deals. One of the weirdest times I remember, I was going to tell my Planet Caravan stories with Ozzy. There's 3 times in my life where I think I'll sit back here tonight where I'm not sure which ones I'm telling. It's in real life, it's kind of hard because I always get the sense that like people don't believe a fucking word, even my family, that I'm saying, because it seems so unlikely.
Crazy train!
Likely, but when you live and work in LA and in the business and also go to a lot of those 12-step programs, you get to know a lot of people. So which story? Well, there's the Planet Caravan trilogy. I think I'll hold off on that, but 3 times in my life Planet Caravan was playing when somebody was dying right in front of me, and unfortunately the first time the guy died, and I later went on to meet Ozzy and get to know him a little bit, and anyways, I'll talk about that. It was a weird day. So I used to see Ozzy every morning for several years at one of those 12s. They don't like you to say, which one, AA or what, NA or whatever it was.
Where the possessed go to mingle. Yeah, where demons go to hang. Hey, man, how are you?
And I'm not a member of that stuff anymore, but I still respect it. It was a big part of my life. So I was at I used to see him all the time for several years, and other people like that. Like from the time I met Steve from Aerosmith there in the mornings, and I see him all the time, but I knew Steve from Aerosmith at one of those 12-step meetings. They really jump your shit if you say AA. I don't give a fuck anymore, really, but I try to respect that. But like 20 years later, I went through rehab with Steve, and then couldn't listen to Aerosmith for the next couple of years, for some reason. But so the story is,
Mr. Zach Wild. It's called.
I'd seen Ozzy there every morning for a couple of years and kind of knew him a little bit, even jammed with him a little bit. And there was a comedian, his name was Sam Kinison, also, who was big at the time. And I got to know Sam pretty well.
Fascinating book. People go, Sam, do you think you could do it again? Do you think?
Oh. And so, even though I'd worked in the business and everything, it was, seeing these guys at like Sunrise in West Hollywood every morning, it was still kind of surreal, But, so, it was a neat day because, so that particular morning, I just happened to be, as they do what they call praying out. They say a prayer at those 12-step meetings, And so it just so happened, on one side I was holding hands with Sam Kinison, who I knew a little bit, and Ozzy was on the other side. I was holding his hand praying, and I thought, isn't this fucking surreal? I'm praying with the Prince of Darkness and this irreverent comic. I don't know if you guys remember Sam. He was really funny, He did this screaming thing. Look him up. He's cool, Sam.
I remember the fucking day!
Kinison. He died shortly after this, was killed. And so anyway, I was like, they were on either side of me, and I was holding hands with both those guys praying at like sunrise. I thought, this is fucking surreal. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the studio and do some stuff. And a friend of mine that worked at Guitar Center said, hey man, they're putting Ozzy Osbourne is putting his handprints out in front of Guitar Center today. Why don't you come over, and plus I can give you a good deal on that compressor that you need. You know, that was back when Elisa's gear was big, and I wanted this. You know, now it's a joke, but I mean at that time it was really a deal for me. So I went over to Guitar Center Hollywood, and it just so happened like Sam was like hosting the damn thing, and Ozzy was putting his handprints down. So we went up, and even though he worked there, we were behind the rope, you know. And I knew these guys a little bit, but, you know, not like good buddies or anything, but I saw them every morning. And so anyway, we were like at the front of the rope. Everybody was behind the rope at the front of the store waiting for Ozzy to come out, and Sam was working the crowd and going to introduce the whole thing and induct him into this rock walk.
Fascinating book. People go, Sam, do you think you could do it again? Do you think?
Or whatever they have, you know. So anyway, Sam was going along the crowd, and he saw me. And he goes, hey man, come on man. And he lifted up the rope and let me go in. He goes, bring your buddy, you know. So it was real cool because I knew both of these guys, and there's kind of a tight community with the people in the 12-step groups. You know, there's a bunch of strangers around, and they see a guy they've seen every morning for the past few years and talk to and jam with a little bit. Like I said, not good buddies. But, you know, got to go behind the rope and you know, like hang out with them and just from knowing them, you know. And I just thought that was so weird because Sam was killed very shortly after that, you know. But what a cool guy he was. And, you know, I was knew Ozzy a little bit for a while. I would doubt he would remember anything about me. I kept seeing Ozzy everywhere. And I wanted to tell my Planet Caravan stories. I won't now. But anyway, and professionally later, I would run into Ozzy quite a bit, and he would always like call me dude. He never remembered my name, but he'd be like, "Oh, dude," you know. "Oh, dude, oh, dude," you know. But Sam, yeah, you know, he was just really great and going to be a legend. But that was just so surreal. I mean, what else can I tell you about that day? That was a really neat day because, you know, it wasn't like I don't know, it wasn't phony or BS. These guys were kind of friends of mine, and there was something really cool going on, and they decided to, like, you know, Sam decided to bring me in, and then Ozzy was really cool about it too, you know. And but just stuff like that happens all the time. And it's happened to me a lot. And you know, in my regular life, I mean, I've tried to tell my family that, and they see me as like Eric, the kid they grew up with, or they don't have they didn't know me in my sort of businessman and studio owner and Hollywood cat, you know, a record executive era. So it's really hard for them to believe anything I say, and that's frustrating. So I don't say anything at all about it, you know. And, you know, but they're not really fans of music or entertainment or art like I am. So that was a neat day, you know. I'll get around to those Planet Caravan stories because one guy died. There were 3 times in my life where Planet Caravan was playing. I saved 2 guys' lives. One guy, and this is why I took emergency medical training eventually, because of the first guy, a car wreck. Planet Caravan was playing in the background on the guy's stereo, and he died right there. And I met his parents and the whole thing. But anyway, so then later to get to know Ozzy a little bit, then to have this happen over and over, and then to see him like at the weirdest places at the weirdest times, and to actually know him, it was just surreal. It was totally surreal. But I don't, you know, since I left LA, I don't talk about this kind of stuff much because people just think you're completely full of shit. And I don't need that kind of action, you know. I'm not trying to brag. It's not even bragging. It's just sort of normal stuff that went on in my life for the longest time. I've got a little story about almost, you know, literally several hundred famous people. Married one girl who was a little famous, and you know, had a bunch of pretty famous friends and shit. You know, it's surreal when that happens. It now that I look back and I see these people all over the internet and shit, it's like, you know, you realize at the time, you don't realize you're involved in something that's kind of epic, you know, or a little epic. That's kind of like a little pregnant. But I didn't tell the story well or anything, but it was a neat day. And I wish I could say more about Sam, except that he was really funny and a cool guy in person, a very funny guy. Always Sam Kinison, you know. And he was killed in a car wreck, and they said he was talking to angels, and he was a preacher at one time. So, you know, it was just a crazy deal, and I got to know him pretty well, you know, on a friend level. So, anyway, just some of the stuff that that's happened to me. I hadn't made a vlog in a few days, and I'm trying to, like, I'm backing up a bunch of hard disks, and I'm trying to sort of back up my life or something on YouTube. So, little anecdote for you. There you go. Totally 100% true, you know. It even feels like you're lying when you tell stories like that. It's so surreal, but it's everything. I try not to I don't have to make shit up in my vlog, but I always feel there's that feeling of like, oh, nobody's gonna believe this is fucking true. So anyway, there you go. Peace out, motherfucker.